And here I actually want to open the house to one more age-old connection that branding has with another large subject, which is culture, which is content and Bollywood. I think advertising and branding all over the world, and especially India, has a very symbiotic relationship with pop culture, with creative content, and with audiovisual content, and so on and so forth. And in the last few years, we are seeing the Netflix revolution in one such cliche. The enormous amount of OTT content that's really coming out, which actually is shaping our thinking, shaping our entertainment. So I just want to ask you guys in terms of, where exactly do you think is, the state of content and the state of branding? How are they two engaging at this point of time? So open.
I'll take that. So with the way OTT platforms are sort of becoming ubiquitous in all our lives, and especially in the way we consume media, they have to eventually become vehicles for brands to be able to carry messages as well, for both the platforms as well, because there's only so deep that their pockets run in terms of being able to fund content continuously. So I know a lot of these platforms are in conversations to start AVOD teams, and they will be starting to look at advertising very seriously as a form of revenue. And for brands, if this is the one way or the most dominant way for any of us to receive messages, then this is going to become that one place where brands need to win. And I'll just take an example of my nephew who I'm spending time with in Dubai. We're watching this show together called The Great Outdoors. It is set in a media house. It's a publication that actually runs a magazine called The Great Outdoors. Sorry, the show is called The Great Indoors. And the joke is that because they don't have enough money coming in right now, most of their journalists are required to sit inside the office, look up articles on popular outdoor destinations, and publish the magazine on the basis of secondary research. And all of these guys are using Microsoft Surface computers. And my nephew, who is 8 years old, promptly turns around and says, "Hey, Bua, they also work in a media company. Why do you use an Apple product? Why do they use Microsoft Surface? Does a Microsoft Surface do the same job that your Apple laptop does?" And to me, that is classic clutter-free breakthrough messaging, right? Because they were able to communicate to an 8-year-old that, hey, you can use our laptops or our devices to do what you're doing as well. And that made a difference to him. He obviously doesn't understand advertising. He's born and raised on YouTube and OTT consumption. He sees 30-second ad spots as short stories. So he sees them go start and stop, and he's like, "Oh, that was interesting." And he's not picked up the product message at all, because for him, it's just somebody selling him a short story. So yes, OTTs are going to be the way for brands to look at communicating with wider audiences going forward, but it will have to be done in a way that makes sense to the end consumer. It cannot be in your face. It has to be more subtly placed. It has to be the kind of messaging that consumers are open to.
Absolutely. I think
If I may have another additional view to that, is that with this explosion of content and OTT, content does either prescribe culture or describe it, right? It's one of the two. And today, it's more than the advertising part of it. Content has to be very responsible with what we put out. And this community, and brands as well as creators, have to be far more responsible with the content we put out, because then brand messaging becomes that is the easy part. But what are you communicating? How are you communicating it? And does it have a positive impact on society is going to be so important today with the explosion of OTTs and the kind of content vehicles that are available. And if you actually make a positive impact in society, your brand will eventually win. And that is important to understand. And we've all got to look at it very, very carefully, because I would not let a creative go out from our office if it doesn't represent, a community well, if it doesn't represent a moment well, if it does not represent a situation well. And that responsibility.